now tuned in to Elevated Talk.
Peace and more peace, family. What's going on? Peace and more peace. So, if you're new here, my name is Mark Anthony. Look, I was thinking should I go into my yap? But let me do my little intro real quick. All right. My name is Mark Anthony. If you are new here, welcome to the Cosmic Show. All right. If you've been here a couple times, thank you for spinning the block. Thank you. This means that you found the thumbnail intriguing enough to click on it, and I appreciate you for that. I appreciate your interest. I appreciate your attention. It's scarce out here, so I appreciate y'all joining me here. The mission remains the same. If you've been tuned into the videos, the mission remains the same. And it's to impact and inspire deeper realization within all beings. And now that looks different for everyone, right? It looks different for everyone. And where it starts is with yourself. I recently dropped a video talking about how when we ask ourselves certain questions, it can give us the answers, it can give us realizations to help us see a little clearer, see a little deeper. And with those realizations, we can, begin to gain steps, begin to gain ideas of how we wish to move, right? I did a poll on Instagram talking about investing, right? And right now, where we invest our energy is so important. It always has been, but especially right now in this potent energy that we are in, where we invest our energy is so important right now. So important. Because where we invest our energy is going to be directly correlated with the return of energy that we get. So wherever we're investing our energy, be willing to accept the responsibility that where you're investing your energy, that's going to be what's coming back towards you, right? So if you doing the same habit, right, then it's led you to the same place, right? That's an investment, and it's going to keep on giving you that same thing. If you go into McDonald's, right, that's an investment. It's going to keep fucking with your gut, right? If you meditating, that's an investment, and you're going to start seeing new things, right? You're going to start realizing new things, because when we invest our energy inward, we're peeling back the layers, right? We're peeling back the layers, okay? If you start journaling, that's an investment. If you start actually investing, that's an investment. And the return is going to be much different than the paradigm that we've been conditioned into, but also the paradigm that you have found comfort in, right? So that's my little spiel, all right? You already know how to break the algorithm. Like, share, comment, let me know your thoughts. We're going to get into a part 2 of a live I did a while back, and I think I'm going to start making this more consistent. We're just going to sit down and watch the brother 19 Keys talk to a beautiful soul X about AI and technology. I think it's important to talk about right now, because that's where we are at. We are literally, I dropped a post on Instagram and TikTok talking about how it's no longer the space race. While, space is still prevalent, but it's no longer the space race, but now it's the AI race. Like, who can build the best AI models, who can, build the most efficient AI models and things of that nature to help their economy thrive, right? Because all these motherfuckers care about, I don't want to disrespect, all these people care about, right, is economic growth, right? But at what cost? At what cost, right? But here's the thing. We can run and put our tails between our legs, act like this isn't happening, or we can use our resources to get in the know of what's happening and, listen, not financial advice, But there are companies out there that are having the same revolutionary style of technology that is more sustainable and more ethically correct, right? So it's just about being willing to do the research. Or you can take the route where, you have your ETFs and you have those big companies, that's guaranteed, return and things like that. When it comes to investing, nothing is guaranteed. But what I'm saying is, it may seem like when it comes to investing and crypto and things like that, there may only be unethical companies to invest into. But there are companies out there who are on the brink of revolutionization technology and other problem solving things. But we're going to focus on technology right now that we can invest into, but we just have to be willing to do the research. And a big thing that I'm into, and that if you've been following, is crypto. So I do plan, mainly I think I'm gonna keep the crypto talk on TikTok and Instagram, so definitely follow me there. But I'll drop some seeds here and there. I really want YouTube to be a mix of sustainability and conscious lore. So with that said, let's get into the video. Just this allier intro. Dun. I'm just kidding. I love y'all for it. Oh man, we shifting, bro. We shifting. If you seeing this, you're amazing. You see what that says right there? Natural abundance. Natural abundance. Come on, let's get into it. Hold up. Let me see.
Right before your cycle, or you go look at your ex's page right before, and I know it's your ex because you done told me your relationship status and tagged him in it. So now all of that.
All right, so if you haven't seen part 1, you didn't miss much. I was just talking about how technology is low-key is hidden, and the government uses it for a long time before they're like, okay, we can release this to the public. And just talking about how from sales to news, all those things sometimes correlate with the army as to what can be said, but also correlates to how do we use this to manipulate, get to know the consumer better so that we can produce what they want and keep on attracting them, almost like an addiction, right? That's like the little summary right there. And so we're picking up where she's talking about how there's an app for women's menstrual cycles that literally knows when you're about to go on your cycle, and then can see all of your habits and patterns about what you do when you go on that cycle, and they can use that data to do what I just said.
Data is automated. What websites you go visit, and then you link up your Apple Watch and your health app, and they know when you sleep and know when you wake.
Yeah.
Now they can try that to all your other behaviors. And then you link that to your journal app where you telling them how you feel every day. And now they see it even more. And then you log in with your Google or with your Meta to all these other websites that are now automatically collecting all that data about you and creating a graph about you that understands you better than you do. So much so that Amazon has patented algorithms that can predict if you're gonna buy an item or not. And so now we go back to Palantir, the all-seeing eye, which was originally created as a private company to kind of help with that information targeting process. They wanted to make it easier so you don't have to go on the ground, undercover and go talk to people to figure stuff out. We can just figure it out with data. And they're huge. And I think they just won like another $180 million contract either yesterday or today. And so what they're doing constantly is they're basically scraping or making copies of the whole internet. They're making copies of all these documents. They're making it so that all these intelligence officers can upload their reports, and they're, they be spying on people. And this is what this meant. They go have a diplomatic meeting and they writing their notes. Like all that stuff goes in there and creates an even more detailed graph about you. And the purpose of that is so that the military will say is to identify threats or to improve operational efficiency. What that means is, are you someone we need to be worried about? And if so, we already know everything about you to know how to change what you feel. That's dangerous to me. And all we're doing as individual humans in the world is participating in these digital platforms because they turn into real social currency. So if I don't have an Instagram, I'm gonna get looked at like I don't have an iPhone when I text somebody, right? Those things translate to real social benefits. So in order to participate in our society in a way where we have access to be able to come up or to be able to have additional streams of income, it requires that we participate in these platforms. So we really can't opt out. I mean, technically you can, but socially you really can't. And so now we're subject to being monitored and assessed in these ways. And you know, the military's baby cousin, police forces, are using the same technology in ways that are absurd. There's a company, can't remember the name, but it's out of New York. The New York Police Department paid this company $8 million because they claim that they can predict if you're going to make a crime in the future from your Facebook profile. And they profiled all these people who live in New York. And they paid them $8 million.
Pre-crime.
It's like that movie.
Minority Report.
Minority Report. They're now trying to predict if you're going to be a criminal.
Yeah.
Well, what signals are you using from my Facebook to decide if I'm going to be a criminal or not? I can't post song lyrics that I like. How is your algorithm trained? How is it tested to make sure it's not?
See, and this is like, it's something I'll always mention, man, is as we enter this AI evolutionary period, right? And we see all these things, we have to understand the manipulation behind it all. We have to understand the mental games behind it all, right? We have to understand how all of these things, and the reason why, and she mentioned it in the very beginning, check out part 1. The reason why they had, they said back in 2012, they had AI back in 2012, right? In the army. Because of its weaponization, right? The media are very phones. Everything can be weaponized, but not in a way that we may even care to think. In the way of manipulating our mind, feeding us a narrative, right? That fits their narrative so that we go out and do what they want us to do. So that they can have a reason to justify spending, what she say? She say 8 billion or 8 million? Hold up. So that they can have a reason to justify spending that much money to calculate and see if somebody is finna do a crime.
And they're huge. And I think they just won like another $180 million contract either yesterday or today. And so what they're doing constantly is they're basically scraping or making copies of the whole internet. They're making copies of it, and it's like this operation. Oh, we already know dangerous to the world is participate. So if I don't, right, society be able to. So we really can't opt out. I mean, subject to police forces are using the same technology in ways that are absurd. There's a company, can't remember the name, but it's out of New York. The New York Police Department predict
8 mil. 8 mil on, and I'm not getting into no defund the police lore, so please don't get at me in the comments with that one. But 8 mil on experimental technology to say we can predict if somebody's gonna make a crime or not. Now, I wanted to quote Captain America, because he said this quote in Winter Soldier. He said something about how if you try to start a war before it happens, people get hurt. Something along those lines. And I think if America continues to get ahead of themselves with this AI technology, I mean, it's inevitable. I feel like it's going to do more harm than good, which is why I stand 10 toes down about talking about tapping in with the original AI, which is the mind, right? Tapping into the original computer.
Dick, if you gonna make a crime in the future from your Facebook profile. And they profiled all these people who live in New York. And they paid them $8 million.
Pre-crime.
It's like that movie.
Minority Report.
Minority Report. They're now trying to predict if you're gonna be a criminal.
Yeah.
Well, what signals are you using from my Facebook to decide if I'm gonna be a criminal or not? I can't post song lyrics that I like. How was your algorithm trained? How was it tested to make sure it's not biased against certain things? And honestly, is that even something we should be using AI for? Artificial intelligence can't predict the future, it can only learn from the past and make more of the past. So if I, like myself, someone who started out in this game as a supervillain, if you will, you know, I grew up in a neighborhood, I made bad choices, I ended up in juvenile hall. I hurt my own community in that process, stealing, you know what I mean? So back in the day, that's where I was. But that was not a good indicator of where I ended up. You know, now I'm a published researcher, high school and college dropout, still got published academic research. I created the research team that taught AI how to see Black and brown people. So if you were to just look at that data, you couldn't have predicted my future. So how can a tech company that doesn't even understand the cultural nuances of our slang, let alone our affinity for certain music and our desire to repost it, how can they say that we've created an AI that can look at your past profile and predict if you're going to commit a crime in the future and then sell that technology?
You need to look yourself in the mirror and ask yourself if you
It says a lot about society and why we create technology, because that same technology can use to prevent, right? And not just predict, but those markers of prediction, they're not, it's like the FBI don't watch you to try to prevent a crime, right? They're going to let you fall into the trap to where they got enough on you to where they can lock you up, right? And the company is basically taking that same model and that same mind frame and saying, yeah, we'll go predict it. The cops ain't going to try to intervene, right? They're not going to figure out, all right, well, if you got the technology that can predict, what about the technology that can help prevent? Can you then create an algorithm where this person, you take their graph and their profile and you can then manipulate them to be a better citizen, right? No, because now you stop building prisons. Now you messing up with somebody else's business. Now that business go come after you like, wait a minute, how you go create a business that stops mine? Right? I think that that's really speaks upon, that's why we talked about clean technology, and it's like,
This is what I was talking about in the beginning, like just this cycle has been putting materialism before the spiritual, putting the material gain before the spiritual knowing. And macroly, that's what the system has built on. And so moving from a place of choosing to do things from a physical standpoint, it's limited, but it also creates this dark and twisted use of the gifts that we have here. Because as 19 Keys just mentioned, because manipulation goes both ways, right? Motivation goes both ways, right? So if these companies decided to start pushing more of this, right? Put this on the mainstream, right? Which is why we gotta break the algorithm, like, share, comment, break the algorithm, okay? If the mainstream started to push more of this, right? People will start to wake up. People will start to think different. People will be motivated not by the survivalism or the material gain, but by what their soul craves for, what their soul is driving them towards. But as he stated, if that happened, that's messing with one of the biggest businesses in this entire outdated capitalistic system, which is the private prison system, right? That's a hole in the lore. If you know, you know. But that shit is dark, bro. And there's a multitude of avenues, pipelines, if you will, that all lead back to getting, especially my melanated folk, into the prison, into the cell. So we have to be willing to see these things, and why we have to be willing to think from a higher level and stop letting technology influence us in the way that it does. And it's not to say that technology is not going to influence us, but we have the power to influence the boat of technology. We have the power to influence where we allow technology to take us.
Like, man is not ready for the knowledge he has, right? And we've, my whole life, I love technology. I love science, right? I love progress. But I've been recently thinking about, a lot of times progress is the enemy of peace, right? Because peace is equanimity, is peace is solace with things the way that they are, right? Content with the way that they are, right? We all free, we good. I like where we at, and then somebody comes, nope, I want to build something that's gonna change everything. But when you change everything and all these ripple effects happen, it disturbs the peace. So that's why I said at the beginning, technology is a harbor of chaos, in a lot of different ways. Sometimes we need that interruption, right? That interruption that says that, wait a minute, I don't like the way things are. I'm going to create something that change things for the better. But in that period, I have to create some chaos before we can get to order, right? And that's the whole balancement that it is trying to get to. But that is not where we at today as a society. You have some people that are on the light and the dark side spectrum, if you will. And then you have some people that's creating it unwittingly knowing that they're working for that side because they're not drawing out their attentions to the root to say, okay, I want this capital. I'm not really thinking about the ripple effects of how it be used. And that's how we get the turn. We have this blind justice. You know what I'm saying? Because we should have more things and more technology that is created for preventative measures, not predictive measures, right? If you have that power, harness it for a way to change society for the better, to where say, yeah, they build prisons based on, they say third grade reports. Now, of course, that's an obsolete way of looking at it, right? They can look at before you was born and your parents coming together and say, oh, they had this certain amount of children, a bunch of them gonna end up in prison. So boom, based on these people coming together and they graphs and they profiles, yeah, make sure in 2020 and 33, you feel me, we build at least 12 in this particular area because we already predicted where this path leads. So I believe is on us on the opposite side. It's not the fear of technology, because those that we fear having it is not gonna stop building it, right? It's the other side to where you have to empower yourself with the knowledge to say, okay, how about we create some of this preventative technology to where we get to change things and create more order from the chaos? Information is everywhere. You can log into YouTube right now and type in almost any subject. But I'm gonna be honest with you, you won't even know if it's human generated or if it's just based on the algorithm that figured out that you wanted to find this subject. It queried your information, created an automated process so they can get your eyeballs to try to sell you a product or get advertisement dollars. Humans need humans. We don't work and operate that well learning for machines, because it's the connection to the information, it's the connection to the process that allows us to grow our neurons. It's the connection that allows us to be able to tap into that tapestry of thought to where we need to learn and be in environments to where we feel aspirational and we are inspired and it's empathetic. So today it's not about just having access to the information. It's not just about being able to have democratized education everywhere. It's about connection. Are you actually connected to it? When you are in a community, it reinforces that environment of connection. And that's why being a part of high level is so important. So you are reinforcing an environment with that human connection. I see you, you see me, you feel felt, you want to learn. Information and data, statistics and numbers and automation is fine, especially if you want to create income and utilize the technology for such. But human connection has always been a real source of learning. Don't just go for the information. Go for the community and go for the connection.
Where you say you at? 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 Tap in with the guy.
Which is better for attracting more money?
Too, as you was talking about social media, I want to go on, what are some of the ways that people, in your estimated judgment, opinion, or observation, can protect themselves during this age?
Oh, that's a difficult question. One with an answer that is not as easy as opting out, right? I think that's where we tend to go first is, well, if we don't like it, just don't participate. The reality is that that's not how our social environments have been constructed. So in lieu of opting out, the biggest thing that we can do collectively, especially in this moment, is come together and be intentional about shaping how it gets used. So you mentioned that a lot of these technologies are being built with like destruction in mind and destruction in purpose, and to further the goals of the institutions offline and how they've been operating for hundreds of years, just doing it online and automated, and there's not a lot being built on our behalf. Well, there's, in my opinion, two reasons for that. One is that right now we're living in the imagination of this old white dude who back in the 40s and 50s wrote a series of short stories. And this is back before a computer is even small enough to fit inside of a building. And these stories he wrote were about a time in the future where humans had built these human-like robots that were so, so like almost as smart as them, and they end up starting to fight and they create the Great Robot Wars. And these short stories are called I, Robot. So Isaac Asimov imagined this, put it out into the collective to imagine. And then now, what are we trying to build? Human-like robots. So we're still living in his imagination. Yeah. And so my question is, where is our collective imagination? It's locked up in survival. It's locked up in avoiding these things. So the first thing we can do to protect ourselves is become aware of what these...
I just want to touch up on that right there. There was a quote I heard, I forgot who said it, but it said, it's a reason why we don't feel like we fit in, because we're living in somebody else's imagination. We're living in somebody else's systems. We're abiding by somebody else's rules. We're listening to what they tell us, and then that becomes our programming, that becomes our mindset based on what they've been telling us this entire time, right? It's easy to be in fear right now because that's what they want. It's easy to lack the knowledge right now because that's what they want. So when will we start applying pressure? They've been applying pressure since we came out the fucking womb. Advertisements, psyops, stigmas. And they didn't have to do nothing because they taught your parents, and then your parents taught you. So when will we start to apply the pressure? If you have a phone, if you have a computer, you have the ability to invest in yourself. And that's crypto, that's stocks, that's watching videos to help you release the mental trauma. I mean, if you're watching this video right now, this is an investment. AI isn't going anywhere. And she said, I forgot what she said, but she said, almost like opting out may not be a choice. I would say it is and it isn't. Depends on how you want to live your life. But what I can say is opting out of technology, I feel like isn't a choice. Because no matter if you off grid, you're gonna need some technology, right? But what if we chose to use our resources differently? What if we chose to use technology to help us elevate our consciousness, to help us get our mind running in new ideas? You may have a lineage of inventors, but because we haven't chosen to look beyond the slavery history, we only think our ancestors stopped there, but that could be far from the truth, man. Technology is a gift, and as stated, for a long time it's been used for destructive measures, applying manipulation and pressure and altercation on our minds to get us to continue to abide by somebody else's imagination. So I ask again, when we gonna start applying the pressure? When we gonna stop shopping with them? When we gonna go support our own? When we gonna start using our resources to find out, hey, there's a group of people thinking like this. There's a group of people that meet up every Wednesday and just talk about their feelings. Talk about what they're going through. Talking about ways to heal. damn, there's a group of people every Friday that just, talk about ways to implement change. But how do we find these things? By using this right here in new profound ways. And it's not profound because it's simply just changing what you're searching up on YouTube, changing what you're looking up on the internet, right? I gave this example, and I'm not saying like, I'm not shaming, bro. I literally just watched Invincible. I love superheroes. I love watching movies, right? It's a balance, right? It's a balance. How we use technology will shape our future. And I don't say that like as a cliche. How we use technology right now, our mindset around technology, and our mindset with ourselves is literally shaping our future. So if we continue to allow them to tell us how to feel about something, then we're allowing them to shape our future. So we have to be willing to gain our own opinions, to gain our own understanding and understanding and overstanding and left standing and right standing about what technology is, how we feel about technology, and how do we want to use it. And stop letting a news headline get you out of investing, right? They pimping you out your bag. They've been pimping us out our bag, right? So now we got to stop being pimped. I'm not going to say become the pimp because that's just fucked up. We repeating cycles and shit. We got to stop being pimped and become a free agent. Yo, look, shout out to Ralph Smart. Can I get a hello? Shout out to Infinite Waters. Yeah. But that's my spiel, man. I'm gonna let it run for another 15. And if I have any more thoughts and expressions, I'm gonna express. But let's sit on that. Let me know in the comments y'all thoughts. Let me know where y'all been at. You know what I mean? Let's ruminate on it. Let's sit on it. Okay? Let's sit on it. Right? So, you're looking to start your healing arc. Well, you came to the right place. You've been asking, is there more to this life? How do I find this more? What is this more? And all those answers that you seek, that your soul is searching for, is found within. I myself asked those very same questions, and it was the chakras that helped me answer these questions. But why in the world would you want to dive into the chakras? What are chakras, and how does this help me heal? Well, it's understanding one of the basic laws of the universe, which is everything is vibration, meaning everything is energy. And these chakras act as the energy centers within inside our body. And it's when we begin to understand both the external energetics, but recognizing that the external energetics is influenced by our internal energetics, that being the chakras, that we start to put the influential power back in our hands. Because you see, what has happened is we've lived this life being influenced by external modalities, systems, and programmings that have confined not only our mental, but our energetic systems. So in this chakra course, we dive through the main 7 chakras.
Technologies are and what the possibilities are that we can do with them. So if you've always wanted to make art, but your mama couldn't afford art classes like mine, learn how to use these generative tools to tell your story, to tell the stories that you want to tell, to be able to go in and use these tools. If you've ever wanted to write a script and you don't know how to put it in professional language, that's where these tools can help you and yourself become aware and shape your knowledge and have your story become a part of the collective imagination. I think the other piece is right now we're in the wild, wild west of artificial intelligence. Companies do not have any rules about how they build and test these systems. So I could be building an AI for a cancer machine to determine how much, chemo I should drip inside of you. And I wouldn't have to tell you I was using AI to do it. I wouldn't have to test it. I wouldn't have to make sure it works well for different people from different backgrounds, ages, body sizes. And then if I mess up, I could just say, oops, well, that was my algorithm. It was the AI that made the mistake. It wasn't me. And we see that in a number of places right now that most people aren't aware of. You hear about like people using the generative AI to like make porn, or like you might hear like, oh, Google's image search results are biased, that type of thing. But like they're using AI in child protective services. So Illinois had done this study, I think 2013 to 2014 with this tool. It basically took in your case report. So you call in CPS, you know, oh, this child's in danger. It takes it in, and then on a scale of like 0 to 100, how likely is this child to die? So like 0, they're not really at risk of being hurt. 100 is like they're absolutely gonna die. So the state of Illinois did a study for a year with this technology, and it just didn't work. Like it said over 360 children were 100% gonna die that weren't in danger. There were children that died that weren't flagged by the system. And even when you got up to like 70, 80%, which is like they're seriously at risk of being harmed, the kids weren't actually in danger, and they were all black and brown, the ones it was flagging. So Illinois was like, yo, we're not using this tool, it doesn't work. They canceled the contract. But 14 states in the US still use that because there's no rules. And we're not showing up to board meetings. We're not showing up to city council meetings where they're deciding to adopt this technology. We're not getting on some old government website that looks like eBay in 1994 trying to look at the contracts they got bids out for to see what they're doing. And so right now, laws are being made around this. And while I know that the policy lever has not always worked in our community's favor, we have a very unique opportunity right now to shape the way that those laws are formed. People listen when we get mad on social media about things. When the whole internet went crazy about the Taylor Swift AI porn thing, look what happened. They introduced 2 bills within a matter of days. AI has been an issue for a really long time. People are downloading that software and making like children, and then they say, oh, we can't get them in trouble because it's not a real kid. This has been something people in my circle have been trying to fight for, but can't get that mass push. So we have to understand the power of our collective voice and say, I don't want you using AI in policing. I don't want you using facial recognition without my permission at the airport. I don't want you using AI to try to predict if I'm going to commit a crime. Not only do they do that in the New York Police Department, they've been doing it in court systems too. They call it pretrial sentencing. So when you commit a crime, they go in, they have this questionnaire thing that they have you fill out that makes no sense. Like, I looked at the questions underneath it. The questions are like, did you grow up with both parents? Have you ever thought about committing a crime? Like, what does that have to do? Like, what? How many best friends do you have? Like, the questions on there is just the weirdest stuff. But they were using that to say this person is likely to commit a crime, and then it would spit out a recommended sentence. And it was biased. It's been biased. Most major court systems in the U.S. use it today. They got this other technology called predictive policing. They call it PredPol. It's interesting, like predators polling, right? But predictive policing. And it takes historical crime data, so how much crime has happened and where, and it's supposed to predict where crime is going to happen next to tell the cops where they should spend their time. So now the cops can say, we're not biased against your community. The data told us to go there because y'all had already policed our communities.
This credit card has an interest rate that's really, really low. How low?
That it don't work like 99% of the time, but that don't stop LAPD, Chicago PD, SFPD, NYPD from using it. And so I think in this moment in time, to protect ourselves, the biggest thing that we have to do is, one, become aware of these technologies and the fact that this kind of stuff is happening so that we can collectively use our voice to shape rules around how it can and can't be used. Because we have more power now than we think to shape these systems. These companies are scared of our generations. They're scared of being held accountable, what they call cancel. They're scared of being held accountable. They know it affects their money. Look at how we hurting Kellogg right now. Look at how we hurting Starbucks and McDonald's right now. We have collective power in a way that maybe economically we haven't had in past generations. So it's on us to make sure that we're shaping the rules and shaping the imagination about what's possible and not being subject to responding to what someone else's imagination shapes. And we owe that to these next generations coming up.
Speaking on the next generation, let's say children, right? Because you spoke on children already, but I think, we talk about technology, right? Of course, we see the giant companies getting in trouble because of the harm that social media has on the mind of the youth. But I want to know if you have found some specific things that are harmful to children, specifically when it comes to AI, that parents should know, right? Like, let's say the shaping of reality, like it's going to be very hard to know what if the algorithm is specifically designed to your child's profile, then they're giving them a completely different reality when they're watching their phone than you are, right? Which are then creating these suggestions and influences on the pattern development of your child. Because when you're in those younger ages, that child doesn't have that same conscious profile to say yes and no, because they don't have a an identity to hold on to say this is me or this is not me, right? So in what ways have you seen where technology is really targeting children in that capacity?
Oh, let me not get sued. I would say first and foremost, the data that these companies collect on your children in violation of privacy laws. So I'd say do not expect just because there's a rule that says that a company can't do X, Y, or Z that they're going to obey it if there's no real accountability measures. So recently, the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, which is really the only government body that's like going after tech companies for messing up with their algorithms, they came after Amazon because Amazon and their little Alexa system was keeping copies of children's voice recording without permission, even when people had asked that they be deleted. And they kept copies of those voice recordings and even lied to the FTC about how long they had kept them for. You know what their punishment was?
What's that, a fine?
A $25 million fine.
Pennies.
Now, Europe got it on lock. Europe literally just today, I think they fined Apple $2 billion for anti-competition. They'll slap Apple with a $2 billion fine. They'll hit Google with a $6 billion fine. We don't do that here. So just understanding that, like, when you're using any always on technology, that's what they call it, always on. So you got your phone set to listen to Hey Siri. That means she's always listening to you. She might only respond when you say Hey Siri, but she's always listening to you. Your Alexa, same thing. Any of those voice assistants, all of those things are always recording you. So if you don't want your child's voice being used to make their algorithms better, or God knows what them people doing with that data on the other end, why are you keeping children's voices? That's creepy to me.
Yeah.
You could put it in a data set and then train the algorithm and then delete it. Why you got it for months and months after? I don't know. I don't trust it, right? So if you don't want your children's voices being subject to these things, like their actual literal voices, then you got to turn those features off. Now, that does come with inconvenience. I like being able to yell at Siri and tell her to do something, but I don't want you to have my voice all the time.
Right.
I don't want you around when I'm having conversations about my feelings, or when I'm having conversations with my mom about, her health. Like, you don't need to hear that. You don't need to keep copies of that, right? So turn those features off. The other thing is with social media platforms in general, especially like your YouTubes, your TikToks, your Meta, your Instagram. It's about the ranking and recommendation algorithms. So you always hear like the recommendations, the algorithm, the feed, if you will. Ranking and recommendation works in two ways, right? So you have, in order to recommend what you should watch next or what you should see next, there's two things that go into that. So it's ranking and recommendation. So the first is that they assign every item in their whole like database of items a score, right? Based on your profile and your preferences. So your profile is like, oh, I speak English. So they're not going to recommend all the Russian videos to you. Or like, oh, I'm based in San Francisco. So if you like sports, they probably might pop up like the Giants or the Warriors for you, right? So they take this kind of your static data that you give them about who you are. And then they take your preferences. So that's what you've liked, what you've watched a long time, what you've commented on, what you've shared. That demonstrates to them that you prefer this kind of content. So once they use those two things to assign it a score, then all you end up seeing in the recommendation is a list of those items based on what's got the highest score. So you as a parent have to be constantly double checking what starts to come up on your child's feed, because it's not like you set the content one time and it's going to keep your kid safe. If your kid accidentally likes some videos, Maybe one day they watch something, they're angry, they start liking those videos. They're going to get more of that. And you can undo that by going into their likes and unliking the videos and downvoting them, right? So actually monitoring and maybe like once a week checking in on what's starting to show up on your kid's feed so that you have a way to control that. Another thing is actually using the children's settings on these apps. Like, don't just let your kid go to youtube.com and be open to a corpus of terrible things. Like, they have settings inside of there where you could set, and you could also set, it's like a spiciness rating thing on YouTube where you could be like, yo, I want my kid to have like no spicy content. Like, only come on here and watch cartoons. I don't want nothing that could be controversial. I don't want them going down no political videos. I don't want them going down no natural disaster videos. You can actually go in and shut that off, but that's on you as the parent to make sure you set that profile up, make sure you configure it. So I think it's a combination of one, actually being involved in your children's process of consuming media, because these algorithms update based on every video they like.
That's a little, look, I think we're gonna have at least, because these is 3 hour long and that's only 40 minutes. So we're gonna have at least a couple part fours, part fives and things like that. But that's really why I wanted to let it run, because last time I did more yapping, and so I wanted to really let it run because there's a lot of valuable information, and she touched up on a lot of things, and it's just showing you how dark things can get and what happens when technology is put in these capitalistic hands. Technology is put in these pedophile hands, man. They create from a place of that greed. They create from a place of that demonicness, right? And so the thing is, we have access to the same technology now. We do. It's obviously there are some gaps and there are some things that we don't have access to, but the technology that we have access to is enough to cultivate real change. Y'all seen her talk about, what happened to McDonald's, what happened to Starbucks. When we choose to not only boycott from these companies, right? Because boycotting it's a first step, it's a stepping stone. But the next step, and I dropped a community post about this, is boycotting with us, right? I guarantee you, if you look into your community, you can find a replacement for at least 2/3 of your groceries that are either locals farmers markets, a co-op, or a more sustainable option. But the thing is, we've been programmed to think that that is our only option. And going to just the summary of just, what we just listened to. We have to put regulations, and if not governmental regulations on ourselves, on how we're using this technology, what we're gonna use it for, because it's hot, bro. They don't care. Like 19 Keys said, they got what was it? Who got charged? It was Amazon. Amazon got charged with a $25 million fine. That ain't shit. So there has to be real repercussions. And if we want to show them, right, real repercussions, we stop shopping with them. We stop supporting them, right? Because the same way that how we use technology is going to shape our future, what we invest in is also in that. That's why I started with what I started with. What we invest in will be what comes back. So if we are investing in these unethical companies, then those unethical companies have our support. So then that becomes a question on us. What are we supporting? And I know the conveniences. I know it all, right? But if anything, I guarantee you there's a way for you to, one, shop more sustainably, but also use technology in a more sustainable and evolutionary way outside of the way we've been programmed to use technology. This is how we can rewrite our future. My name is Mark Anthony. This is Elevated Talk. Welcome to the Cosmic Show. All right, that's my spiel. Stay tuned for like part 2, 3, and 4, and 5. We are just getting started. Like literally winter. We're exiting out of winter. We're about to go into the real New Year's. Shit is about to pop off. Be mindful, okay? Stay mindful. Do not be easily influenced by these games. Do not be easily influenced by this manipulation. All right. I highly suggest following me on Instagram and TikTok. That's where I'll be putting more of my investment lore and crypto lore and things like that. With that said, let's get this shift. Let's get this shift. And remember, freedom has always been an option. Peace and much gratitude to